Hello, I'm Dr. Jane. I'm a psychologist. This is Knowing Narcissism, and this is another contact that somebody's made with a question for me. And please feel free to contact me on DM, Instagram. There's a link below, or if you're happy to put your questions or comments below and for other people to see, then I'm happy to, if I can answer a question for you, if you can give me a little bit of context. So this lady writes, I'm having a lot of issues involving family. I had a father who committed suicide at 40, a mother with a martyr complex, and a husband who sadly died at 36, leaving me with 3 young children. She doesn't say how her husband died. Throughout, my mother's bullying and belittling behaviour has remained unchanged. She controlled how my brothers and I behaved with our father and never had anything nice to say about him when he was alive or dead, and her greatest anger seems to have always been aimed at me, her only daughter. I am of Asian origin, and she engineered an arranged marriage but would not let me live happily and would create diversions between my husband and I and his family. It was as though she wanted me to herself and not because she loved me. After my husband died, with trepidation, as I've always been frightened of angering her, I cut ties with her so my children could grow up without her interference and not be coward like my brothers and I are. She didn't give in easily, but I remained resolute. Good for you. Recently, I have let her back in because I feel guilty. When I saw her again after many years, I was overwhelmed by how aged and frail she looked, and I wanted to cry. We had 2 attempts at reconciliation. One lasted a few months, a second for 2 years, but she hadn't learnt anything and just carried on behaving how she had before. She lives an hour away and I want to visit her every 2 weeks, but her bitterness has played on my mind. I couldn't sleep and I felt suicidal myself. So now, once again, we are estranged. She is elderly and needy, but I have left my brothers to care for her and I feel guilty about that. She does not like their wives and lets that be known as well. I had to bring up my help without any help because she isolated me. So why do I still have this enormous guilt? Well, that is a typical narcissistic tactic to make their young child feel responsible and therefore guilty if they don't reach what the narcissistic parent wants them to. Now, this might be tidying their room, this might be making their grades, this might be eating all of their dinner. It could be 1,000,001 things that the narcissist has dictated to the child that they want, often from a really early age. So the children and narcissists don't ever know anything different to begin with. When they kind of start socializing at school, that's the point where they actually realize that this isn't how normal parents will behave. So that's what this lady has been programmed into, if you like. She has been programmed into meeting every single need that her mother has given her over her many, many years. And she got to a point where she couldn't stand it anymore and she withdrew from that. And she doesn't say how that went, but I'm imagining it can only go well because she's no longer under the 100% auspices of her narcissistic mother, but she feels guilt towards her. And the reason I think she feels guilt is because she's a nice person. She understands and she empathizes. She has self-awareness. She puts herself in her mother's shoes and thinks, what would it be like to be her? Oh, that must be really awful. So what can I do to, ameliorate that? How can I make life better for her? She's had a number of attempts of having this woman, her mother, back in her life, and none of them have worked. And even though she talks about her being very aged and frail, she's not going to change. She's not changed in her many, many decades, and she's not going to change now. All she will feel is, if this lady reaches out to her and wants her back in her life, is, I've won. Ultimately, I've won. You can't live without me, so I've won, and you want me back in your life. And even though that cycle repeats itself over and over again, this lady will not learn. Narcissists do not learn. Narcissists, remember, who want to be validated, who want to be admired, who want to feel special, who want to feel that they are number one in everybody's life, especially their children. And she talks about her brothers as well, suffering. So, she said most of her vitriol came to her because she was the only daughter, but she didn't put one child above another. They all seem to have suffered equally because of this narcissistic, this, I would say, pathologically narcissistic mother. So she does feel guilt, but what she needs to do with that is recognise it, that that's how she feels, and it is a passing emotion, not to be knee-jerk and feel that she should do something about it and instantly have her mother back in her life again, because it'll only end up the same way that it has before. But recognise it as an emotion. Find somebody to talk to. Maybe it's a counsellor, maybe it's somebody that she knows through her religious organisation, though we have to be a little bit careful because obviously certain expectations may come of that. So somebody neutral probably would be better in this respect. And it though she talks about being of Asian culture, this is something that is across the board, unfortunately. It isn't just unique to certain cultures. This is something that's across the board. So I would advise this person to recognise that they will feel guilty as her mother ages and her needs become more. She will feel guilty, but recognise that for what it is and have her own best life. Now, it might be that as a mother gets older and her requirements become more, that can be spread out between her and her brothers, that actually one of us will attend to her if it's something to do with medication, another one will attend to her if it's something to do with her housing, getting her food sorted out or something like that. So it's spread across you, so she can't do the divide and conquer thing that she's obviously been trying to do for many, many years. This lady is going to die sad and alone, no matter what anybody does. That is the fact of that. And in itself, that is a sadness, but she's kind of, she's done this to herself. She's had plenty of opportunity to reflect, to change, to do something about the behaviour that she has displayed to absolutely everybody, and she's chosen not to, because her narcissistic traits have come through of wanting to be the special one, the unique one, the one that everybody admires. And the irony being, nobody admires. They will just do what they need to do. And she's lucky to have these people in her life that think about her like that. If you've got anything to add to this, please do. Always good to get a conversation going below. Please like, subscribe. That'll be really great because it helps the channel enormously and it just kind of gets that message out there more. Until next time, please do keep safe and goodbye.